So, Alright, hello everyone, my name is Nigel, of course, and today I'm going to be talking about a game I just finished recently. Now, of course, when I say finished, I don't mean like 100% complete. I mostly mean beat the story, the main campaign of the game. And today we're going to be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, the game that released late last year, and I have the PS4 edition, so we're gonna get into it. Of course, just like with the movie reviews, I'm gonna be doing more often, and same with these game reviews. I'm not a professional. I'm just a man who enjoys a good time, and I have to say I definitely did have a good time with this game. So, real quick, right off the jump, I gotta be honest, I'm a huge fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'll admit, back when their first movie was about to come out as part of the MCU, didn't really know who they were, or per se, but after watching the movies and then getting more into who they are as characters, that's when I really started to like and enjoy the Guardians, and seeing them get their own video game here was pretty cool. It's part of the overall video game universe that they're building. But without further ado, let's get into it. So, Guardians of the Galaxy was published by Square Enix. Now, this was from their Eidos Montreal division. So that's the people behind the Deus Ex games, not the old school ones for PS2, who like the Fallen stuff, but we're talking about the more I guess recent, although they were about almost 9-10 years old. That's Human Revolution, which released in 2013, and then Mankind Divided, which released in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And so these people definitely know how to, of course, make a game, and they were behind Guardians of the Galaxy here. Now, with Avengers, which was also published by Square Enix, not the Eidos Montreal division, but the regular Square Enix division, many people weren't too happy with that game, and so I imagine while some people were excited that the Guardians of the Galaxy were going to have their own video game, some people were a bit concerned as to, oh man, Square Enix is behind another Marvel game, like we saw what they did with Avengers. Will the same problems persist in Guardians of the Galaxy? But I'm happy to say it looks like the Eidos Montreal division really helped pick things up for the Guardians of the Galaxy here, and for this video game universe, this Marvel video game universe that they are seemingly building. So, of course, with just about any game, there's pros and cons. There's stuff you like, stuff you didn't like, stuff that you think probably wouldn't work and ended up did, and then stuff you thought would work but ended up not. And this game is, of course, no exception. So, what I like about the game, I like that we had, of course, all 5 Guardians were present. We had Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax the Destroyer, Rocket Raccoon, and of course Groot. Don't call him a raccoon. But so we had all 5 Guardians that were present in the MCU movie, and we also had some other Guardians characters who made an appearance, but there were some surprising omissions, such as Yondu. He wasn't present, Thanos wasn't present, and Nebula wasn't present, but they were explained in the game, which I think works. So, basically, when this game takes place, it takes place after a huge galactic war, and so Thanos ended up being killed by Drax the Destroyer, which makes sense. That, and of course, Drax the Destroyer, for those of you who didn't know, holds a grudge against Thanos for killing his family, his wife and child. So Drax holds a grudge and pretty much gained powers so that he could kill Thanos, which he did, but he ended up becoming a war hero turned war criminal because he went on a murderous rampage. So there's that. Yondu's imprisoned, and when Star-Lord ended up turning him in, And then Nebula ended up being killed by Gamora. So any characters that you were like, well, these are characters that are specific to the Guardians, especially in the MCU, where are they at? Thankfully, the game explains where they are. It's not just a case of, oh, they're just not here. There's reasons why they're not there. So I thought that was pretty cool and neat, a little bit of world building. So, remember when I was talking about that stuff that shouldn't have worked that well, but did? A lot of people were concerned because Star-Lord was the only character that you could play as in the game. That's right, you can't play as any of the other Guardians, only Star-Lord. But how it works is that as Star-Lord, you who do a majority of stuff, a majority of things you do have your own solo things that you do. You have your own solo powers. You, of course, have Star-Lord's blasters. You have his element guns as well, which I thought was pretty cool and a neat little comic throwback for Star-Lord, including those in the game. But you direct your other teammates to do things. So you can interact with your team. You can make choices, do the branching paths, which is also something that the Deus Ex games were known for. So it was kind of cool to see that Eidos Montreal took the ideas that worked in Deus Ex, which is ideas that a lot of people liked from those games, and then brought them over to Guardians of the Galaxy here, and it worked really well. And in combat, well, even when you're exploring around the area, you can direct the other Guardians to clear certain obstacles. And in combat, you can tell the other Guardians to do certain things. What you do is you select an enemy on a PlayStation. It's done with the L1 button. And I imagine for like Xbox, it would be done with the shoulder buttons for Xbox, and of course the Nintendo Switch, which is the cloud version of that. So you do the shoulder button, hits the left shoulder button, and you direct the Guardian there, and you select one of their attacks, and they will carry out the attacks. But of course, the rest of the Guardians will be fighting as normal against the enemies in regular combat as well. So while you are playing a Star-Lord, you are seeing the other Guardians at work, and of course sometimes you will see Rocket on Groot's back shooting away and stuff, which not just call back to the MCU, but also how they normally go about doing things. And of course Gamora and Drax will do their thing as well. So it is pretty interesting to see the Guardians at work. It's not a lot of like sitting around waiting for something to happen. You can direct the Guardians. Now there is a bit of a drawback to this, which we'll get to, but right now we're talking about the pros and everything. So I think that's something that works, and the choices you make will affect the game in the long term, mainly when you go to face the enemies. And of course, like I said, other characters that are affiliated with the Guardians of the Galaxy making appearances as well. We got Mantis, who was the latest member of the Guardians to be introduced in the MCU films. He's here, and then of course there's Cosmo the space dog, who is in charge of Nowhere, and then there's Nova Corps, which it did kind of suck that while we did have Nova Corps, we didn't have like Richard Rider or Sam Alexander, or two very notable Nova Corps personnel. They weren't anywhere in the game, but we did have Corel, which is Star-Lord's former girlfriend, and her child, which we find out is adopted. And of course, spoilers, there's Nikki Gold, who will be integral to beating the villain. And so it's cool that we see them there. We also get Lady Hellbender, who is the monster queen, who the Guardians have a bit of a scrap with. It's mainly based on my choices, but I think it was supposed to happen anyway. And we also have Fin Fang Foom, which is a giant monster who you use to convince Lady Hellbender to join your side in the final battle. Also, seeing all these characters is pretty cool. And of course, there's Adam Warlock, who believe it or not, if you hadn't noticed in the MCU movies, has been teased already. They teased him in both Guardians of the Galaxy movies. There was the cocoon in the collector's room that had Adam Warlock, and then of course the golden race that the Guardians ticked off in Volume 2, who pretty much named Adam Warlock. They name dropped him, so he's going to be making his way there. But considering his ties to Thanos and how he's one of the key parts of stopping Thanos in the Infinity Saga, maybe he should have showed up a little earlier, but hey, what are you going to do? But so he makes an appearance, but now for the villains, and I think the villains they chose and how they represented them were pretty cool. So, Square Enix, aka Eidos Montreal, which is the division that worked on this game, ended up finding a way to have their cake and eat it too. So, there's a main villain, but then the A turned out to be a bit of a fake out for the real main villain, but the other ones are still the main villains as well. So, the main villain, which is kind of a fake out, but not really since they're still present, is the Universal Church of Truth, which tries to get people to fall under pretty much this hypnosis in what they call the promise. So, it's a form of mind control that's used to build up the church, and basically the end goal is that they're gonna take over the universe and fulfill the promise. But then the real main villain is Magus, the alter ego of Adam Warlock. And wow, it's pretty weird to think that there's not one but two superheroes in the Marvel comics with split personality villains who are evils. So Magus is the evil alter ego of Adam Warlock, and it's explained in the game that when Adam Warlock, who has healing powers, was able to heal Raker, who is the Grand Unifier of the Church of Truth, and he was able to heal him, I should say. But Magus ended up craving more, and separated from Adam Warlock, and they became two separate entities. And it's explained his connection to Raker and kind of how this was all brought about. So of course the Guardians, who aren't like their MCU counterparts, where at this point in time they're established, the Guardians at this point have only been around for a little bit and are still trying to really gel as a team, which is where Star-Lord and his tactics come in, because he tries to keep the team together through various methods. It's in his leadership role, and that's what the player fulfills throughout the game, is trying to make different decisions and things like that to keep the team together. And basically the Guardians is faced with taking down the Church of Truth to the point where even the World Mind, which is, it's like, I guess, a huge entity who tries to guard the universe and everything, pretty much pieces out and says they're not dealing with this. Although me personally, when I made my decisions in the game, I tried to convince the World Mind to I pretty much showed them a flaw in their logic, which I'll admit I kind of did by accident just through the dialogue trees, but we were able to see that, and like I said, the choices you make at one point in the game do show up later on. So in the final battle, if you let Gamora go after Raker, because they do confront him early on, she takes one of his arms, and so he's a lot weaker in the final battle. If you help Cosmo break free of the promise, because Cosmo, the space dog, does succumb to it, he helps you out in the final battle, wiping out quite a bit of the Church of Truth's army. And same with Lady Hellbender, who she apparently is going to help out anyway. And those choices and getting on their good side really makes the fights a bit easier towards the end, which is pretty good to see. And so it's cool to also see that Magus and the Church of Truth are like the main villains, to the point where, even when we get the twist ending where you think the game's over, nope, no, it's not. Magus comes back for one last battle, and you have to take him down alongside Nikki Gold. Well, it makes sense, and it works really well, which is great. And then, of course, as we see different Guardians promise, the only two we end up actually seeing and interacting with were Star-Lord's, of course, because we're playing as him, and then Drax is because Drax does end up succumbing to the promise, but we help break him free of it. And this time around, Star-Lord is a teenager when his mother is killed and he's abducted from Earth. Of course, in the MCU, he's a small child. He's 8 years old, but as a teenager here, he gets his guns, the elemental guns, the blasters and everything. And it's pretty cool, some of the differences that were made between the MCU and the video game. And the other big thing that I like about the game is we see the Guardians begin to gel a lot as a team, which the MCU did as well, but we see it here in the video game. They trust each other more. Rocket gets over his fear of water, which comes from his experimentation on Half-World. And Gamora reveals that she killed her sister Nebula, which helps her open up more with the team. And we see how the team really connects with each other, or going through the ups and downs as they try to stop the Church of Truth. They become a little less like strangers to one another who don't trust one another, which is how they start off in the game, and then they grow to be more friendly with each other, which is really cool to see. And seeing that really helps amplify the narrative, which a lot of people said is really good, and I agree. It's a really nice narrative to see how the Guardians really adapt and gel as a team. So, with that being said, like I said, there are some things I didn't really like as much about the game. For starters, the combat, which I mentioned, how you can direct the other Guardians to attack certain things. Excuse me. Honestly, that can get a bit repetitive sometimes, and sometimes it feels like you are kind of waiting around sometimes. Excuse me. Just waiting for something to happen, waiting for your teammate's ability to charge back up so you can use it again. And that does kind of break the pacing a little bit, but it's not too bad, especially because you can still fight and control a Star-Lord. And the elemental guns aren't just used as environmental interactions. You can use them in combat as well, and they have pretty good abilities. But that's really my only nitpick. And of course, the soundtrack, which it's a lot of old school music, so of course it's gonna be really good. We got Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, we got Iron Maiden, we got Rick Astley. We got a good soundtrack throughout, and you really can't go wrong when it comes to the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, because it is all Star-Lord's music that he got when he left Earth in the 80s, so real good stuff. And even the costumes look really good as well. I know I talked about a con, but the pros definitely outweigh the cons here, and the costumes look really good as well. And the voice actors, I'll admit, at first I was a bit on the fence with the voice actors, but I think they did a good job, all things considered. My only nitpick, I guess, and this is mainly directed at Rocket and Drax. Everyone else sounds fine, but I feel like Rocket and Drax, their voice actors, and I feel like this may or may not have been done on purpose. They try to sound a little too much like their MCU counterparts. Now, some may not see this as a bad thing, especially because that's where a lot of people know them from. It's the MCU, and so having them sound like their MCU counterparts really familiarizes us with them. But it does come off as kind of, they're trying to sound like their MCU counterparts. Of course, Rocket Raccoon is Bradley Cooper, and then Drax is Dave Bautista. Groot is okay, but you get a lot a leeway with him. You just have to. It has to be a big voice, and he just has to say the 3 lines, I am Groot, although he says it with different emotions when he's asking a question or he's stating something, or he's excited about something. So, there's a lot of leeway with that. And then Gamora and Star-Lord, her voice actors, they kind of try to do their own thing, which is really good. And, while it doesn't sound, of course, like their MCU counterparts, it works, and I do like it. And, yeah, so overall, I know I was kind of all over the place with this review, but I really did enjoy the game quite a bit. The pros definitely outweigh the cons, so if you see this game out and about, I suggest picking it up. Yeah, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section below, do you agree or disagree with my sentiments? How do you feel about the game and everything? And I will see you guys later. Peace.